Good morning. So I really like this girl's face. She looks very calm. Hello from Canada. Oh, hello. It must be late in Canada. So I wanted to experiment a little bit again with colour, like I did yesterday. So yesterday we painted this girl, and I was quite excited to paint her because I wanted the shapes to be a little bit different. I just wanted to experiment with some kind of abstraction when it came to the shadows of the face. But this girl here, I really like her expression. She seems very calm. 9:13 p.m. That's not too late. It's early here. It's 10 o'clock. I think it must be around 10:13 or something like that. But I really like her expression. And I have done it before where skin color has been like very glossy and kind of alive. And I wanted to try and do that again. But because I don't have my regular paint palette here, it's my travel palette, I don't have all the colors that I normally use. I usually use raw sienna, and I don't have that. I've got burnt sienna, so it's going to render a darker skin tone, which I like in the girls as well. But I want to really try and play with that luminosity with this skin tone. So now I'm mixing in permanent rose with the burnt sienna. I'm pretty sure it's burnt. It's either burnt sienna or burnt ochre or something like that. So I've got a beautiful colour mixed up now. And the key to the luminosity, I'm not sure what other word to use, I'm mixing a little bit of yellow in there as well, is the layers. So I'm going to try and be very careful with my layers today. Just using a dagger brush, travel brush from Winsor & Newton. And I want to keep the calmness in her face. I've just washed that paint out. I'm going to try and pick up a lighter wash. So I rinsed my brush out after mixing the paint. So I'm hoping today will be a bit of a slow process because I really want to build up the layers. But in order to do that, you have to let them dry. So this is the very first layer. I'm not going to be super careful with it, but I will try and make sure I stay within the lines of her face. So I'm going over everything. I don't know if we should. That's part of experimenting, including her eyes and eyeballs, because I think once we get all of our layers on, if that was just pure white, I think it would look strange. I could be wrong, but I can go back over it at a later time with a white gouache or white gel pen. That's completely fine. But for our first layer of skin, I think that's quite nice. So the sketchbook is nearly full. I think I have one blank page left, but I have a lot of these girls that are drawn. Now, a tip for when you're doing watercolor, because you have to wait in between each layer. I wasn't going to do this one today, but I think I will, because I have to be patient to let this dry, and I am a notoriously impatient person, especially when it comes to watercolor. I'll do the same on both girls. That'll give this one a chance to dry to the point where I can put, oops, see, I've just put my finger over that and I've smudged it because it wasn't dry. So impatient. Let me try and fix that up now. There we go. So I just got clean water and I'm just trying to smooth that out, what I just made run with my fingers. So if you have any questions about colour or painting or anything, just tell me. I'd love to know what you do as well. I think that's a good thing to learn, how other people do certain things, because that way it helps you to learn too, I think. So by doing both girls, I'll be able to give it the drying time that it needs. I usually do landscapes, which is my bread and butter, I guess, but I do not enjoy doing them as much as the girls and the abstracts. Isn't that funny? This is where I get the real love of painting, is these girls and the abstracts. The abstracts are definitely the heart language. So you can see, I'm not sure if the camera can pick it up, just slightly. This skin tone is slightly yellower than this one. So that is because I've obviously picked up more yellow in the mix of pigments that I have there. I'm not a big fan of this base layer, to be honest. This one looks more natural to me, but that's okay. So that's our first layer. What I want to do is I want to think about the different colours that these girls might have around them. For her, I was thinking red with the dark green. And this one, maybe blue and yellow. Now I'm just going to go back in with my base skin colour, which is a lot pinker. And this is where blending and being patient is going to... I need to think about where the light is hitting. So it feels like the light is going to hit from this side, because I've already put those highlights in her eyes. So this side of her face is going to be in shadow, this side of her nose, and some parts under her lip, under her chin. So I'm just going to rinse out some of that pigment because I don't want it to be too harsh, and I'm just going to go over with a layer over the top here. Now I'm a big fan of the sketchy look, but today I'm going for something different. I've got a very tiny brush that I've just dipped in clean water, and I need to clean that out because it's still got blue on it from yesterday, and that's what we don't want. So I've dipped it in clean water, and what I'm doing is I'm just going to feather out, that's still got blue in it. Bum. There we go. I'm just going to feather out that colour that I've just put in there so that it doesn't have that harsh line. I'm doing this with clean water. Because that paper underneath is slightly wet, it's working well. Now because I had a slight blue tint in that little tiny brush at the beginning, you can't really see it on the camera, but it's turned a slight tinge of green, which is annoying. But you'll be able to see that this side of the face is significantly darker in shadow. And that's just 2 layers. So I put the darker on this side and blended it out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get the other darker places of her face where the light would kind of stop. So the shadows, I'm trying to think where the shadows would hit. So under a hairline here, maybe just here. Go back in with my small brush that has water on it and just blend out those sharp edges. So this is quite a different approach to what we took yesterday. I might do that around her mouth. Because yesterday, on purpose, we tried to make some very clear, straight lines, quite unrealistic to get the shadows. So this was yesterday's, and you can see how that works in its own context. But today we want to do something a little bit different. We want to keep kind of some softness in the face if we can. And just adding in some natural shadow. Okay, so there's some depth in the face there. I might, while this is still a little wet, I'm going to put in more of a shadow line under a neck there. And because that paper is still quite wet, it's blending nicely. So I'm not going to have to do too much to that myself, which is fine. And I'm going to leave that there for now. Okay, let that dry. Now I'm going to go over to my other face. And I'm going to do something similar. I'm using the big brush as well and the small brush. I really need to have one in between. Like you can see how tiny they are. This one is tiny and that one's way too big. I really need one in between, but I don't have one, so we work with what we got. So same kind of principle. I'm going to darken up this side of the face. This time I'm avoiding the eyeball. I'm going to give some definition to the ear there. And the shadow that falls on her neck. What we find on her nose that goes under. And then I'm going to go in with a clean brush, clean water. I'm going to blend out those lines. So I'm just working with the pigment and the moisture that's on the paper and already in the brush. So with this, I want to keep shadow on her cheek area there as her cheekbone. That's worked out well. So I put water on there on my brush and I'm drawing it out. It's kind of trying to make a natural highlight of where her cheek might be, which I like. So we're just blending now. Just so that we don't have that harsh line. And so far this is only using 3 colours. So this is Permanent Rose, the Burnt Sienna or Burnt Ochre, one of them. I think it's Burnt Sienna, to be honest. It's Burnt Sienna. And a teeny bit of yellow, just so it's got that yellow in it. So you can see again from this little section we've got quite some definition on this side of her face, which is good. So I've put some more colour, washed off my brush, and now blending away so that we don't have those harsh lines. Now you can see I'm putting the colour just on certain sections only, because in my head I'm trying to guess where the light would actually be hitting her face. So I think I've made a little bit of a mistake here by putting shadow there. Because if the light's hitting there, then that would actually be quite light. So that's part of learning too. And that's sometimes when you do these studies, well, I do. When I say you, I'm actually meaning myself. At the end of it, you're like, oh, it doesn't look quite right. And usually the reason for that is if the shadows are off and the lighting is off. And your brain is pretty clever. It can pick up. It doesn't probably, you're probably not consciously thinking, oh, the shadow's off, that's why it doesn't look any good. It's your brain saying something's not quite right, because your brain is used to seeing light hit a certain way. You're just not registering it because you don't need to think about it in everyday life. You know, the sun hits a certain side of a building, you expect a shadow on the other side, and your brain just computes that. So when you see something that's slightly off when it comes to portraits or something like that, your brain knows something's off, but it might not necessarily trigger that it was the shadows are in the wrong place or anything like that. So that's a lot of painting what you see, not what you think you see. But with these girls, same with all of my girls, I never use a reference. So these are purely out of my head. So I'm kind of trying to train myself about where light hits where, based on what I'm observing around me. Today's a little bit harder because it's not a sunny day. So a lot of the colours are quite muted. So I've just put some darker areas underneath her hairline and blending them out. Where else would be shadow? The bottom of her nose and on this side of her face a little more, I think. So just building up the layers, dipping my brush in. In the water. Okay, so I like how she's kind of turned out, which is good. It's quite peaceful here at the moment. We have the lambs in the back and the birds singing. It's very cute. The fire in the background. So now I'm going to build up again colour and shadow. But each time I'm not going as far in as I did the last time. So this is only the third layer, so it's not even a lot of layers so far. So I've got that line on her face. I'm going to blend that out. I'm going to put some shadow as though her lip casts a shadow here. Dip my brush in water, rinse it off, and blend it out. Dip it in water again, rinse it off. So I'm using the same colour. I haven't changed any colours yet. I'm just building up the layers with the same colour. And just repeating the process of rinsing off my brush with clean water, wiping off the excess, and blending out. Now what that's doing is it's slowly kind of deepening the colours. I guess this is where the patience with watercolour comes in, I guess. This is why I like doing it usually with the more harsh lines, with the very clear lines, because most days I've got a lot to do and I don't have the time to sit and take the time that I would like to. So this is kind of a treat to be able to spend the time playing with the colours like this. So you can see by building up the shadows, what we're doing is we're giving the face like the 3D feel, like the roundness. So I'm going to put a shadow here as though it's underneath her cheek, just an extra layer, a cheekbone there. Rinse out my brush and I'm going to blend out those edges so we've just got that second layer laying there. I'll just rinse my brush again. So you can see, you can pick it up on the camera just slightly. There is like a very slight difference of colour between these two sections. So it gives the impression, your brain reads that as, okay, the light's hit her cheekbone and it's put that little section under her cheekbone into shadow. So again, I'm going to darken up this section underneath, because if the light's hitting from above, her face is going to cast a shadow on her neck. So it'll make that chin section push out more, stand out a little bit more. Now you go back in with your shadow colours under the hairline. Okay. We'll leave this section, we won't paint it, but we'll paint underneath it. Again, imagine the light is coming from here and it's just hitting the hair, but not the skin underneath it. That's the idea you want the brain to interpret. So again, you'll notice that there's very slight shadow here compared to that section of her forehead. So it's like the light is hitting her forehead and our brain is reading that as the light being in the right place. Okay, you can also see that we haven't done anything with her lips yet. So if we use that same principle of the light hitting a certain, is hitting this way, we know that this top part of her bottom lip will be highlighted, as will, you know, a section of her upper, but not necessarily the top part of her upper lip, because the lips are kind of like a cylinder, they're round. And we know that if we make it look like the light is hitting like the absolute top part of her lip, it's not going to read right. So what we'll do is we'll start on the bottom lip, we'll put an extra bit of shadow right at the bottom, okay, and on the side. Okay. I'm going to rinse off my brush and I'm going to blend some of that out. Now that reads right for now, so we'll just leave that for now and we'll do the same with the top lip. Now if we imagine that whole top lip section is just one cylinder, we want the highlight to be in kind of the upper middle of that cylinder. So the parts that meet the other lip, the bottom lip, they're going to be darker. So we're going to put a dark line underneath, and we're going to put a shadow around the top of the lips. Okay. This side of the face, remember, it's curving around, so we're going to put that into shadow. But we're going to leave that top section. Now it's a little bit hard to see. I'll try and move the camera so you can see it. Whoops. You can see how these little bits of shadow down the bottom, and how not colouring in the whole lip has given that impression that it is rounded. And you can probably see some of the shadow a lot better just here. So this one, you can tell the difference between the two. This one has had 3 layers, and this one has only had 2. Now look at the difference between 2 layers and 3 layers. It's quite a lot when you have them side by side. So let's go up. Sorry, just adjusting everything. I might put that up a little bit more so you can see it. There we go. So let's go back over to our other girl, and let's put more layers on her. Okay. So I'm back in with my small brush. Like I said, this one's not ideal. I wish I had my bit, like one in between, but we don't have it, so we'll just work with what we have. So we're going in with a dark layer. It's quite dark. Whoops, I think I got too much pigment there. Whoopsie daisy. It's okay. Okay, rinsing off my brush, picking up clean water. I'm going to blend that out as much as possible. Blending those sections out. Now, because I put far too much pigment on there, you can see what happened when I tried to blend that out just now. That didn't render very well. So I'm going to try and go in and pick up some of that pigment, put some on her neck there. So doing the same thing on this side. Rinsing off the brush. Softening that shadow line. So you can see what a big difference that has made with another layer. Now let's come back to our original girl. And I think I'll do one more layer. It'll be quite pinker this time. And this is the last one I'll do before we work on the background. So I'm not putting as much pigment. So these are the low lights. This is going to be the parts of the face that have the most contrast. And I've slightly changed the color in that I made it a lot more pink to create that rosy look that I want for her face. So there's a dance, I guess, of putting pigment on and then wiping it off, or just blending it out. So now you can see the two girls. They definitely have their different characteristics. This one, I love her hair, so I think I will leave it as minimal as possible. Definitely going to do her eyes though. So that's that one. I've run out of energy for this one, so I'll finish her another day. But I like it.